The afternoon sun beat down on Naval Special Warfare Training Center San Diego with the kind of heat that made asphalt shimmer and turned every breath into work. A dusty white van rolled through the main gate, its paint faded, its bumper held on with zip ties and hope. The security guard barely glanced at the contractor badge slapped against the windshield before waving it through. Inside, Alex Carter gripped the steering wheel with hands that had seen better days. Callused, scarred across the knuckles, a faint white line running from her right thumb to her wrist. She wore cargo pants, a gray t-shirt with a faded logo for a plumbing company, and work boots that had walked through more than job sites. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. No jewelry. Nothing that drew attention. She looked exactly like what her paperwork said she was. Civilian HVAC contractor. Here to assess the aging climate control systems in the barracks and mess facilities. Temporary. Access. 2 weeks maximum. Low-level clearance. The van coughed to a stop in the contractor parking area, tucked between a dumpster and a chain-link fence. Alex stepped out, shouldering a worn tool bag that clanked with wrenches and voltage meters. She scanned the base with eyes that took in more than they should have. The way the trainees moved in formation, the positioning of security cameras, the blind spots near the ammunition storage. Old habits. She walked toward the administrative building, boots crunching on gravel. A group of trainees jogged past, their cadence call echoing off the buildings. Their instructor, a Navy chief with a chest full of ribbons, barked corrections as they passed. None of them looked at her twice. Good. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories so you never miss these true tales of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Inside the admin building, the air conditioning hit like a blessing. Alex approached the front desk where a young petty officer sat, eyes glazed from staring at a computer screen for too long. Contractor check-in, Alex said, sliding her paperwork across the desk. The petty officer scanned the documents without real interest. HVAC assessment, building 7 through 12. He read aloud. You'll need an escort for the first day. After that, if you're cleared, you can move freely in authorized zones. Understood. He handed her a temporary badge on a lanyard. The photo was from 3 years ago, taken when she'd first registered with the contracting company. Her face looked harder now. Thinner. The kind of thin that came from not sleeping well. Mess halls in Building 9 if you need lunch, the petty officer added. Contractors eat after 1300. After the trainees clear out. Alex nodded, clipping the badge to her belt. Thanks. She walked out into the heat again, letting the layout of the base settle into her memory, like coordinates on a map. Building, numbers, distances, foot traffic patterns. The muscle memory of operational awareness that never quite left, no matter how long you stayed away. The barracks she'd been assigned to assess first stood 3 stories tall, concrete and steel. Windows cranked open to catch any hint of breeze. Inside, the hallways smelled like sweat, cleaning solution, and the particular staleness of institutional living. She made her way to the mechanical room, a cramped space filled with ancient HVAC units that wheezed and rattled like they were on life support. She set down her tool bag and pulled out a clipboard, beginning the assessment with methodical precision. Checking temperatures, airflow, electrical connections. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, but her mind wandered to other mechanical rooms in other places. A compound in Kandahar where she'd once spent 6 hours rewiring a generator to keep surveillance equipment running. A safe house in Yemen where the AC had failed during a 120-degree summer, and the team had taken shifts in cold showers just to function. Memories she tried not to visit too often. By noon, she'd assessed 3 buildings. Her report would be honest. The systems were failing. Replacement parts were backordered. And without serious intervention, half the base would be sweltering through summer training cycles. But that wasn't her real concern. She wasn't here for the HVAC systems. Alex had been out of the Navy for 2 years. Honorably discharged after 12 years of service, 8 of those with Naval Special Warfare Development Group, DEVGRU. The unit most people knew by another name, one that wasn't supposed to be spoken aloud but always was. SEAL Team 6. Call sign: Wraith. She'd earned that name during her third deployment, moving through compounds so quietly that targets didn't know she was there until it was over. She'd been one of the first women to complete the pipeline. Back when the program had just opened to female candidates, she'd survived Hell Week, survived the doubt, survived men who swore she'd wash out before day 3. She hadn't washed out. She'd thrived. But 2 years ago, after a mission in East Africa went wrong, after she'd carried a wounded teammate 3 miles through hostile territory, after the medal ceremony and the handshakes and the quiet conversations about what comes next, she'd chosen to walk away. The nightmares had been getting worse. The hypervigilance. The way her hand still reached for a sidearm that wasn't there anymore. She needed to step back, reset, remember what it felt like to be a person instead of a weapon. So she'd become a contractor. Quiet work, honest work, fixing things that were broken in ways she could see and measure. Except 3 weeks ago, she'd gotten a call from someone she'd served with, a former teammate who now worked in naval intelligence. He'd been cryptic, careful, but the message was clear. There was a problem at this training facility. Stories of stories, misconduct, abuse of trainees, possible security violations. Nothing proven yet. Nothing actionable. But if someone wanted to look around without raising alarms, a civilian contractor with the right clearances could move through the base like a ghost. So here she was. Wraith, walking among them again. Invisible. The mess hall at 1,330 was supposed to be quiet. The trainees had cycled through, leaving behind the usual debris. Crumpled napkins. Half-empty trays. The faint smell of industrial food and disinfectant. A handful of instructors lingered over coffee, talking in low voices about upcoming exercises. Alex entered through the side door, tool bag slung over one shoulder. She'd been assessing the HVAC system in the kitchen, and now she just wanted something cold to drink before heading back out into the heat. She moved through the line, grabbing a bottle of water and a pre-wrapped sandwich. The civilian cashier barely looked at her, just scanned her contractor badge and waved her through. Alex chose a table near the far wall, away from the instructors, away from the kitchen noise. She sat with her back to the corner, a habit she couldn't break, and unwrapped the sandwich without much interest. That's when the door burst open. 16 men poured into the mess hall, their voices loud, energy crackling. They wore PT gear, soaked with sweat, faces flushed from whatever exercise they'd just finished. A mix of ranks. Enlisted sailors. A few junior officers. And leading them, a cocky-looking lieutenant, with a squared jaw, and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Lieutenant Derek Sutton. Alex had seen his name on the base roster when she'd done her research. Prior enlisted, recently commissioned, assigned to the training cadre, known for being tough on trainees, popular with his peers, and vocal about his opinions on standards and tradition. The group grabbed trays and moved through the line, their laughter echoing off the walls. They were riding the high of whatever accomplishment they'd just achieved, the kind of adrenaline bond that made men feel invincible. Alex kept her head down, chewing her sandwich, willing herself to be invisible. It didn't work. "Hey!" A voice called out. Not to her, but about her. "Anyone know who that is?" Alex's jaw tightened, but she didn't look up. "Contractor." Someone else answered. "Been seeing her around the last couple days." "She's eating in here?" Sutton's voice, sharp with irritation. "Contractors are supposed to wait until after 1400. It's 1330. Another voice pointed out. "Close enough," Sutton said. "Rules are rules." Alex took a slow drink of water. Buying time. Assessing. 16 men. Mixed ranks. Led by someone looking for a reason to flex authority. The smart play was to pack up, apologize, leave quietly. But something in his tone set her teeth on edge. The dismissiveness. The assumption that she didn't belong, didn't deserve to share their space. She'd heard that tone before, many times. She finished chewing, then spoke without looking up. Contractor meal hours are 1,300 to 1,500. Says so on the posted schedule. The mess hall went quiet. 16 pairs of eyes swung toward her. Sutton stepped closer, his boots heavy on the tile. You talking back to me? Alex finally looked up, her expression calm. No, sir. Just clarifying the regulation. His face flushed darker. I don't need some civilian telling me about regulations on my base. Respectfully, Alex said, her voice even. It's not your base. A few of the men shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. This was escalating faster than it should have, and they could all feel it. Sutton's eyes narrowed. You got a smart mouth for a contractor. What are you even doing here? Fixing toilets? HVAC systems, Alex replied. And I'm on my lunch break, which I'm authorized to take. You know what I think? Sutton said, stepping even closer. His voice dropped, but it carried. I think you're one of those stolen valor types. Probably claim you served, right? Probably tell people you were special forces or some bullshit. Alex's hand, resting on the table, tightened just slightly. I don't discuss my service history with people I don't know. Because you don't have one. Sutton shot back. I've seen your type before. Civilian contractors who play dress-up, act tough, collect a paycheck. You wouldn't last 10 minutes in real training. The men around him were watching now, some with amusement, others with growing unease. This had stopped being about meal hours. This was about something else. Proving a point. Establishing dominance. Alex stood slowly, deliberately. She wasn't tall, maybe 5'7", but something in the way she moved made the space around her feel different. Charged. I'm going to finish my lunch, she said quietly. And then I'm going back to work. That's all this needs to be. Sutton laughed, but it was harsh, performative. Sit down when I'm talking to you. He reached out, hand moving toward her shoulder. And that's when everything changed. Alex's reaction was instant, automatic. Muscle memory, from 10,000 hours of training. Her hand came up, not aggressive, but intercepting. She caught his wrist mid-reach, redirected the momentum, and stepped aside in one fluid motion. Sutton stumbled forward, off balance, more surprised than hurt. The mess hall went dead silent. For a moment, nobody moved. Sutton straightened, face burning red now, not from heat but from embarrassment. 16 men watched, waiting to see what would happen next. You just assaulted an officer, Sutton said, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger. You reached for me, Alex replied calmly. I defended myself. That's not assault. That's self-preservation. I'm going to have you thrown off this base, he snapped. Security violation. Threatening behavior. Take your pick. Alex's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Something cold and calculating. She'd been trying to stay invisible, trying to do this the quiet way. But if he was going to make it loud, she'd have to adjust. Go ahead, she said softly. Make the call. Sutton pulled out his phone, fingers stabbing at the screen. Yeah, I need security in the mess hall. Building 9. Civilian contractor getting aggressive. While he talked, the other men began to spread out, not threatening exactly, but creating a perimeter, blocking the exits, making sure she didn't leave before security arrived. Alex took in their positions with a single glance. 16 men, 4 near the main door, 3 by the kitchen entrance. The rest forming a loose semicircle around her and Sutton. They weren't trying to hurt her. They were just making sure she stayed put. One of the junior sailors, a kid who couldn't be older than 20, stepped closer. Ma'am, maybe you should just sit tight until this gets sorted out. I'm not running, Alex said. I've got nothing to hide. But even as she said it, she was calculating. Exits, cover, response times. The same tactical assessment she'd done in compounds overseas, except here the threat was embarrassment and bureaucracy instead of bullets. Still, Old habits. A staff sergeant standing near the water fountain frowned, his eyes narrowing as he studied her. He was older than the others, maybe mid-30s, with the weathered look of someone who'd spent time downrange. His name tape read Garcia. "You move like you've got training," Garcia said carefully. That wasn't just self-defense class stuff. Alex met his gaze. "A lot of people take self-defense classes." "Not like that," he pressed. "That was clean. Textbook joint manipulation. The kind they teach in—" He stopped. Himself. Something clicking in his mind. "Where'd you serve?" "I didn't say I served." "You didn't have to," Garcia replied. "It's written all over you." Sutton hung up his phone. "Security's on the way. And when they get here, you're going to explain exactly what you're doing on this base, and who gave you clearance to put your hands on a Navy officer." Alex shrugged. "Happy to explain. Won't take long." But Garcia wasn't letting it go. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "The way you moved just now. That's close-quarters combat training. Advanced stuff. And you're calm. Too calm. Most civilians would be freaking out right now with 16 of us standing here." "Maybe I'm just good under pressure," Alex said. "Or maybe you've been under real pressure before," Garcia countered. He glanced at her hands, at the scars visible across her knuckles. "How'd you get those?" "Construction work." "Bullshit," he said, but not unkindly. "Those are from striking something hard." Repeatedly. Before Alex could respond, the mess hall door opened again. 2 master-at-arms personnel entered, hands resting casually near their duty belts, expressions professionally neutral. "What's the situation?" the senior MA asked. Sutton stepped forward. "This contractor got aggressive when I corrected her about meal hours. She grabbed my wrist when I tried to escort her out." The MA turned to Alex. "Your side?" "He reached for me," Alex said simply. I moved his hand away. No force. No injury. Just boundaries. The MA glanced at Garcia. "You see what happened?" Garcia hesitated for just a second, then nodded. "Looked like defensive posture to me." He reached, she redirected. "Quick. But not aggressive." Sutton's face darkened. "Whose side are you on?" "The side of what I saw," Garcia replied evenly. The MA side, clearly wanting this to be simpler than it was becoming. "All right. Ma'am, I'm going to need to see your credentials and check your authorization." Alex pulled out her contractor badge and handed it over. The MA scanned it, then radioed something in. While they waited, the 16 men continued to stand there, blocking her path, waiting for resolution. And then something happened that nobody expected. The mess hall door opened, again, and a figure in desert camis walked in. Not rushed. Not urgent. Just steady. He was a senior chief, older, maybe late 40s, with a face that had seen too much sun and too many deployments. His name tape read Mitchell, and on his chest, centered and unmistakable, was the seal trident. He stopped just inside the door, surveying the scene. 16 men surrounding one small woman. His eyes swept across them, unimpressed, then landed on Alex. For a long moment, he just looked at her, taking in the scars on her hands, the way she stood, balanced, ready, the absolute stillness in her posture that came from being comfortable in chaos. And then, his eyes widened, just slightly. "No way," he whispered. Senior Chief Marcus Mitchell had spent 23 years in naval special warfare. He'd seen combat across 4 continents, trained hundreds of operators, and earned every scar visible on his weathered face. In all those years, he'd learned to trust his instincts about people. The way they moved. The way they held themselves under pressure. And right now, every instinct he had was screaming that the woman surrounded by 16 men wasn't just some civilian contractor. He stepped further into the mess hall, his boots echoing in the tense silence. The master-at-arms personnel straightened slightly, recognizing rank and reputation. The 16 men shifted, uncertain now about what was happening. Mitchell's eyes never left Alex. "Senior Chief," the MA said, relief creeping into his voice. "We're just sorting out a situation here. Civilian contractor, possible confrontation with. I know who she is, Mitchell said quietly. The words landed like a grenade. Sutton frowned. You know this contractor? Mitchell didn't answer him. He walked slowly toward Alex, studying her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. 8 years ago, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ramadi. We got pinned down in a 3-story compound. Enemy fire from 2 directions. Whole op was going sideways until someone came through a 3rd-floor window we didn't even know was there. Took out 4 hostiles in under 10 seconds. And gave us the opening we needed to extract. Alex's jaw tightened. She said nothing. Mitchell continued, his eyes never leaving hers. We never saw the operator's face. Full kit. Night vision. Suppressed weapon. But after we exfilled, our team chief told us we'd just been saved by one of DEVGRU's best. Someone so good at close quarters combat that they moved through buildings like smoke. Someone with a call sign that fit perfectly. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Wraith, he said. The name hung in the air like thunder before a storm. Garcia's head snapped toward Alex. Wait. Wraith? The Wraith? Can't be. One of the junior sailors whispered. Wraith's a legend. That operator doesn't even exist officially. Exactly. Mitchell said, his voice stronger now. Doesn't exist officially. Which is why she's standing here in cargo pants. And a contractor badge, instead of a uniform. Alex's expression remained neutral, but something shifted behind her eyes. The careful mask she'd been wearing for 2 years began to crack, not from pressure, but from recognition. She'd served with Mitchell's team. She'd saved their lives. And now he was about to blow her cover in front of 16 strangers. Senior Chief, she said quietly. The first time she'd used any military courtesy since walking onto this base. With respect, you're mistaken. Am I? Mitchell stepped closer, his voice dropping but somehow carrying to every corner of the room. Show me your hands. My hands? Your knuckles. The scars. Alex hesitated, then held out her right hand. The white scar tissue was visible, raised lines across her first 2 knuckles. Mitchell nodded. Those aren't from construction. Those are from breaking orbital bones in close quarters combat. The kind of hand-to-hand work that leaves permanent marks. He turned to Garcia. You saw how she moved when Sutton reached for her. Tell them what you told me would have happened if she'd wanted to hurt him. Garcia swallowed hard. If she'd wanted to? He'd be on the ground unconscious before any of us could have moved. The 16 men were completely still now, their earlier confidence evaporating. They'd thought they were surrounding a civilian contractor. Now they were starting to realize they might have surrounded something else entirely. Sutton tried to regain control. This is ridiculous. She's a contractor. Her badge says exactly what it needs to say. Mitchell interrupted, his tone cutting. You think DevGru operators just disappear when they leave the teams? You think they put their real credentials on civilian paperwork? He looked back at Alex. Some of them want to be left alone. Want to do honest work without being treated like a museum exhibit. Alex's voice was barely a whisper. Senior Chief, please. But Mitchell wasn't done. He turned to address the entire room. I'm going to tell you something that most of you aren't cleared to know, but you're going to hear it anyway because you need to understand what you just did. He pointed at Alex. This woman completed SEAL training when there were people betting real money she'd quit before Hell Week. She didn't quit. She earned her trident. Then she earned her way into DevGru, where she spent 8 years running operations in places that don't show up on maps. She's got 3 bronze stars, 2 with Valor devices. She's got a silver star for actions in Yemen that you'll never read about. And she's got scars from carrying a teammate 3 miles through hostile territory when anyone with less heart would have left him behind. The silence was absolute now. Even the kitchen staff had stopped working, standing frozen behind the serving line. Garcia's voice cracked when he spoke. Ma'am, we didn't know. You weren't supposed to know, Alex said, her composure finally breaking, slightly. That was the whole point. Mitchell pulled out his phone. I'm calling this in. Command needs to know we've got a former DevGru operator on base. even if she's here under contractor status. Don't, Alex said sharply. Marcus, don't. The use of his first name made him pause. In all the years they'd known each other, through all the operations and close calls, she'd never used his first name. It had always been rank, always professional. Why are you really here? He asked quietly. Alex glanced at the 16 men still surrounding her, then at the MAs, then back at Mitchell. She made a decision. Not here. Not like this. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more inspiring military stories like this one. Mitchell understood. He turned to Sutton. Lieutenant, you and your men are going to walk out of this mess hall right now. You're going to forget this happened, and you're going to hope to God that she doesn't file a complaint about being surrounded and intimidated by 16 personnel. Sutton's face had gone pale. Senior Chief, you didn't know, Mitchell finished. I get it. But ignorance isn't an excuse for bad judgment. Dismissed. The 16 men began to file out slowly, their earlier swagger completely gone. A few glanced back at Alex, their expressions mixed with confusion, embarrassment, and something that might have been awe. Garcia was the last to leave. He stopped at the door. Ma'am, for what it's worth, thank you for your service. Alex nodded once. For what it's worth, you were right to question things. That's good instinct. When the room finally cleared, leaving just Alex, Mitchell, and the 2 MAs, the senior master-at-arms spoke carefully. Senior Chief, what do you need from us? Nothing, Mitchell said. This incident is over. No report needed. The MAs exchanged glances, then nodded, left. Alone now, Mitchell pulled out a chair and sat across from Alex. So, are you going to tell me what you're really doing here? Alex sat back down, her sandwich forgotten, her careful cover completely blown. She rubbed her face with both hands, exhaustion suddenly visible in every line of her body. There's been reports, she said quietly. Misconduct. Possible abuse of trainees. Security violations. Nothing confirmed. Nothing actionable. Someone I used to serve with asked me to take a look. Quietly. Mitchell's expression darkened. Who? Can't say. You know how this works. Do you have proof? Not yet. I've only been here 3 days. She looked up at him. But I've seen things. Little things. The way some instructors talk to trainees. Equipment that's signed out but never logged. A pattern of injuries in one particular unit that doesn't match the training intensity. Which unit? Sutton's. Mitchell's jaw clenched. You think he's involved? I think he's arrogant. And arrogance creates blind spots. Whether he's actively involved or just turning a blind eye, I don't know yet. And now your cover's blown, Mitchell said. Yeah. Alex laughed bitterly. 2 years of staying invisible, and it takes 10 seconds for everything to fall apart. I'm sorry, Mitchell said, and he meant it. If I'd known what you were doing, you did what you had to do. Alex interrupted. Those men were escalating. Someone needed to defuse it before it got physical. She paused. Thank you for stepping in. Mitchell stood. What do you need from me? Time, Alex said. I need time to finish what I started. Can you keep this quiet? Just for a few more days? I can try, he said. But word's going to spread. Those 16 men aren't going to keep this to themselves. I know, Alex said quietly. Which means I need to work faster. By the time evening formation rolled around at 1,700, the story had mutated into something barely recognizable. In the way of all military gossip, the truth had been stretched, embellished, and passed through so many mouths that facts and fiction had merged into legend. I heard she's a SEAL instructor who went undercover to catch instructors breaking rules. No, man. She's CIA. The contractor thing is just cover. Garcia said she moved like someone from DevGru. Said she could have dropped all 16 of them if she wanted. Bullshit. She's like 5 to 7. You ever see those female operators? Size doesn't matter when you've got that level of training. In the barracks, in the chow line, at the armory, everywhere people gathered, Alex Carter's name was whispered with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Most had never seen her. She was just the contractor. But now she was something else. Something that didn't quite fit into any category they understood. Garcia sat in his rack that night, unable to shake the image of her standing in that mess hall. Calm. Completely calm. 16 men surrounding her. And she'd looked like she was calculating a grocery list instead of planning an escape route. Except she probably had been planning an escape route. Multiple routes. With contingencies. That's what bothered him most. He'd been special operations for 6 years. He'd trained with some of the best warriors in the world. And in that brief moment, when Sutton had reached for her, Garcia had seen something he recognized. The instant assessment. The micro-adjustment of weight and balance. The readiness to move from zero to lethal in a heartbeat. She hadn't been scared. She'd been ready. His phone buzzed. A text from Mitchell. Need to talk. My office. 0600 tomorrow. Garcia stared at the message, then typed back, Roger that, Senior Chief. Across the base, in the senior enlisted quarters, Mitchell sat at his small desk, staring at a file on his computer screen. It had taken him 20 minutes and 3 phone calls to get it. Pulling favors from people who owed him. The file was heavily redacted. Whole sections, blacked out for security classifications he no longer held. But what remained told enough of the story. Carter. Alexandra M. Rank. Lieutenant Commander. 04. Retired service. Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Years active. 12 deployments. Redacted call sign. Wraith Commendations. Silver Star, 1. Bronze Star, with Valor, 3. Purple Heart, 2. Redacted. Mitchell scrolled down to the final entry, discharge status. Honorable, medical, psychological reason. Redacted current status. Inactive reserve medical or psychological discharge. That usually meant PTSD, injury, or both. Mitchell had seen it before. Good operators who'd given everything until there was nothing left to give. They'd leave the teams quietly, trying to rebuild something resembling a normal life. Except Alex hadn't really left. She'd just changed uniforms. The next morning, Garcia arrived at Mitchell's office at 05:55, 5 minutes early, out of habit. Mitchell waved him in without preamble. Close the door, Mitchell said. Garcia did. Senior Chief. About yesterday. I need to know if I can trust you. Mitchell interrupted. Garcia blinked. Of course, Senior Chief. Not with mission secrets or classified intel. Mitchell clarified. I need to know if you can keep your mouth shut about something that's none of your business. But you're about to make your business anyway. Garcia straightened. Yes. Senior Chief. You can trust me. Mitchell studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Alex Carter isn't just a contractor. She's here on an investigation. Unofficial. Quiet. Someone with connections asked her to look into possible misconduct on this base. Garcia's eyes widened. Misconduct? What kind? The kind that involves instructors abusing their authority. Trainees getting hurt in ways that don't match official reports. Equipment and procedures being violated. Jesus? Garcia breathed. You think it's happening in Sutton's unit? She thinks it's worth looking into. Mitchell said, carefully. And yesterday, we blew her cover before she could finish. So what do? We help her. Mitchell said simply. We keep our eyes open, we watch for the things she was watching for, and we give her the time she needs to either confirm or rule out her suspicions. Garcia leaned forward. Senior Chief, with respect, why her? If there's a real investigation needed, why not bring in NCIS or the Inspector General? Because the people who asked her to look are the kind of people who don't move until they're sure. Mitchell replied. False accusations destroy careers. Real accusations that can't be proven destroy trust. She's here to find the truth before anyone makes an official move. And if the truth is bad, then we deal with it, Mitchell said grimly. But quietly. Professionally. The way it should be handled. Garcia nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Watch Sutton's unit. Pay attention to the trainees. If you see something that doesn't sit right, you tell, and you don't tell anyone else. Roger that, Senior Chief. As Garcia left, Mitchell pulled out his phone and sent a text to a number he hadn't used in 3 years. Your girl's cover is compromised. She's going to need backup. The response came 30 seconds later. Figured. She always did draw attention. Keep her safe. Mitchell sighed. Keeping Alex Carter safe was like trying to keep a hurricane from making landfall. You could see it coming. You could prepare. But ultimately, it was going to do what it was going to do. By mid-morning, Alex was back in the mechanical room of Building 7. Pretending to assess ductwork while actually listening to the voices echoing through the ventilation system. The barracks walls were thin, and sound carried. She'd learned years ago that if you wanted to know what people really thought, you listened when they didn't know you were there. Can't believe Sutton tried to throw his weight around like that. Heard she's some kind of black ops. Probably here to evaluate the training program. If she's really DevGru, why's she working as a contractor? Alex closed her eyes. Listening. Cataloging. The story was spreading exactly as she'd expected. By tonight, every person on this base would have heard some version of what happened in the mess hall. Her cover was gone. Her ability to move unnoticed was gone. Which meant she needed to change tactics. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mitchell. We need to talk. Same place as yesterday. 1,300. She replied, Roger. When she arrived at the mess hall at 1,300, it was nearly empty. Mitchell sat at the same corner table where she'd been sitting yesterday. Garcia was with him. Alex approached slowly, scanning the room out of habit. 3 kitchen staff. 2 janitors. 1 instructor reading a tablet near the windows. No immediate threats. She sat across from Mitchell. You brought company. Staff Sergeant Garcia knows what you're doing here, Mitchell said. He can be trusted. Alex studied Garcia for a moment, then nodded. All right. What do you have for me? Garcia pulled out a small notebook. I've been watching Sutton's unit. Like you asked. This morning, I saw him running a stress drill. Nothing unusual on the surface, but there was a moment when one of the trainees, a kid named Palmer, fell behind on an obstacle run. Sutton got in his face, screaming, which is normal. But then he shoved him. Hard. Palmer hit the ground, and Sutton told him if he couldn't handle a little push, he'd never make it through real training. Did anyone intervene? Alex asked. 2 other instructors were there. Garcia said. Neither said anything. It was like they expected it. Alex's jaw tightened. That's assault. Even in training, you can't physically shove a trainee outside of authorized combatives. I know, Garcia said. But nobody's filing reports. The trainees are scared to speak up because they think it'll get them dropped from the program. Classic power dynamic, Alex murmured. Fear keeps them silent. Silence enables the behavior. Behavior escalates. She looked at Mitchell. How far up does this go? Don't know yet. Mitchell admitted. Could be isolated to Sutton. Could be cultural rot that runs deeper. Either way, Alex said. We need proof. Real proof. Not just observations. What kind of proof? Garcia asked. Alex leaned back, thinking. Video would be ideal. But cameras are controlled. Medical records would work if we could show a pattern of injuries that don't match official incident reports. Or testimony from trainees. If we could get them to talk on record. The trainees won't talk, Garcia said. They're too scared. They'll talk to the right person, Alex said quietly. They'll talk to someone they trust. Someone who's been where they are. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. You're thinking of going back into uniform. Not officially, Alex said. But maybe it's time to stop hiding. That's risky, Mitchell warned. If Sutton knows who you really are, he'll be watching every move you make. Good. Alex said, her voice carrying an edge now. Let him watch. Let him know he's being hunted. Garcia leaned forward. Ma'am, with respect, if he knows you're investigating him, he'll cover his tracks. You'll lose your chance to catch him. Alex smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. Staff Sergeant, I spent 8 years hunting people who knew they were being hunted. The trick isn't staying invisible forever. The trick is making them so nervous about being watched that they make mistakes. Mitchell and Garcia exchanged glances. They were both experienced operators, both comfortable with danger. But something about the way Alex spoke, calm and certain, reminded them that she'd operated at a level they hadn't reached. She'd been one of the best for a reason. All right, Mitchell said finally. What's the play? That afternoon, Alex did something she hadn't done in 2 years. She opened the locked box in her van and pulled out a small black case. Inside, wrapped in soft cloth, was her seal trident. The gold eagle clutching a trident, pistol, and anchor gleamed in the sunlight. She'd earned this piece of metal in ways most people would never understand. She'd bled for it, sacrificed for it, lost friends for it. And now she was going to use it as bait. At 1,600, when the training day ended and personnel gathered in the common areas, Alex walked into the base exchange. Not as a contractor in cargo pants and a faded shirt. She wore clean jeans, a fitted black t-shirt, and around her neck, hanging from a simple chain, was her trident. The reaction was immediate. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Eyes widened. She moved through the exchange slowly, deliberately, letting people see, letting them process. The small woman they dismissed as a contractor was wearing one of the most recognizable symbols in naval special warfare. A young sailor, barely 20, approached cautiously. Ma'am, is that real? Alex met his eyes. Yes. You're a SEAL? Was, Alex said. 12 years, retired 2 years ago. Why are you here as a contractor? He asked. Genuine confusion in his voice. Because sometimes, the best way to see the truth is from the outside, she replied. The sailor nodded slowly, then did something that surprised her. He straightened and rendered a sharp salute. Alex returned it, the muscle memory instant and perfect. Within an hour, the entire base knew. The contractor who'd been dismissed, laughed at, and surrounded in the mess hall was a retired SEAL officer. A DEVGRU operator. Someone with the kind of credentials that made seasoned warriors pause and reconsider their assumptions. In the barracks, trainees whispered about her, in tones usually reserved for legends. In the instructor's lounge, conversations grew quieter, more careful. Everyone knew something had changed, but no one was quite sure what it meant, yet. Except Lieutenant Derek Sutton. He sat in his office. Door closed. Phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what people are saying, he snapped. She's got no authority here. She's a civilian. End of story. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his voice. Because authority didn't always come from rank or position. Sometimes it came from reputation. And Alex Carter's reputation was spreading like wildfire. That evening, Garcia found Alex sitting on a bench near the training field, watching the sun set over the Pacific. He approached quietly, then sat beside her. Words out, he said. I know. Sutton's rattled. He's been making calls, asking questions about you. Alex nodded. Good. Rattled people make mistakes. Garcia was quiet for a moment, then asked, Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why'd you really leave the teams? Everyone says you were one of the best. Alex was silent for so long that Garcia thought she wasn't going to answer. Then, quietly, I left. Because I couldn't tell the difference anymore between the missions and the nightmares. Because I'd wake up at 3 a.m. reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Because I watched too many good people come home in boxes, and I knew I was one bad day away from joining them. She turned to look at him. I left because I needed to remember what it felt like to be human instead of a weapon. But that doesn't mean I stopped caring about the people still wearing the uniform. Garcia nodded slowly. For what it's worth, ma'am. I'm glad you're here. We'll see if you still feel that way when this is over, Alex said. That night, as the base settled into its evening routine, a young trainee named Connor Palmer sat on his rack, staring at his phone. His ribs still ached from where he'd hit the ground that morning after Sutton shoved him. He'd told himself it was part of training, that tough instructors made tough SEALs. But something about it had felt wrong. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. If you need to talk to someone who understands, I'm in Building 3, Room 12. No pressure. No judgment. Just a conversation between people who've both worn the uniform. A.C. Palmer stared at the message. A.C. Alex Carter. The contractor who everyone was suddenly saying used to be DevGru. He looked at his bruised ribs in the mirror, then back at his phone. Finally, he typed, "How do I know I can trust you?" The response came immediately. "You don't. But I'm asking you to try anyway. Because sometimes, the hardest thing about being strong is admitting when something's wrong." Palmer sat with that message for a long time. Then he stood, pulled on a sweatshirt, and walked out into the night. Connor Palmer stood outside Building 3 for a full 5 minutes before he found the courage to knock. His ribs ached with every breath, a constant reminder of that morning's training exercise. Through the small window in the door, he could see Alex Carter sitting at a folding table, paperwork spread in front of her, a cup of coffee steaming beside her hand. She looked up when his shadow crossed the window, then gestured for him to come in. Palmer opened the door slowly. "Ma'am, I got your message. Come in," Alex said, her voice gentle. "Close the door if you want privacy." He did, then stood awkwardly near the entrance, unsure what to do with his hands. Alex gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit. Coffee?" "No, ma'am. Thank you." She studied him for a moment. "How old are you, Palmer?" 22, ma'am." "You don't have to call me ma'am," she said. "I'm not active duty anymore. Alex is fine." "Yes, Ma Alex." He shifted in the chair. "Is it true? What they're saying about you?" "Depends on what they're saying," Alex replied. "But if they're saying I used to be a SEAL, then yes. DevGru for 8 years before that." Palmer's eyes widened slightly. "Why are you here? As a contractor, I mean." Alex set down her pen, giving him her full attention. "Because someone I trust asked me to look into some concerns about how trainees are being treated here. Unofficially. Quietly. Just to see if those concerns had merit." "And do they?" "You tell me," Alex said. "How did you get those bruised ribs?" Palmer's hand moved instinctively to his side. "How did you?" "I've had broken ribs 4 times," Alex said. "I know what it looks like when someone's trying not to breathe too deeply." She leaned forward slightly. "So, tell me, how'd it happen?" For a moment, Palmer said nothing. The words were there, but years of conditioning about chain of command, about not being a complainer, about embracing the suck held them back. But something about the way Alex looked at him, not with pity but with understanding, made the dam break. "Lieutenant Sutton," he said quietly. "This morning. Obstacle course. I was slower than the others coming off the cargo net. He got in my face, which is normal. Instructors do that. But then he put both hands on my chest and shoved me backward. Hard. I went down, hit the ground on my side. He said if I couldn't handle a push, I'd never survive combat." "Did anyone see it?" "2 other instructors. Staff Sergeant Brennan and Petty Officer Cole. Neither of them said anything." "Did you report it?" Palmer shook his head. "Ma'am Alex, if I report an instructor for being too tough, I'm done. They'll find a reason to drop me. Everyone knows that." "Everyone knows that," Alex repeated slowly. "Meaning this isn't the first time something like this has happened." Palmer was quiet. "Connor," Alex said, using his first name deliberately. "I need you to understand something. Tough training prepares you for combat. But there's a difference between tough and abusive. A good instructor pushes you to your limits to make you stronger. A bad instructor crosses lines because they can. Because they enjoy the power? Or because they've normalized behavior that should never be normal? How do you tell the difference? Palmer asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ask yourself this. Alex said. After the interaction, do you feel motivated to improve? Or do you feel humiliated? Worthless? Like you don't belong? She paused. Tough love builds you up while tearing down your weaknesses. Abuse just tears you down. Palmer's eyes glistened. I wanted this so badly. Since I was 15. I wanted to be a SEAL. But lately I've been wondering if I'm just not cut out for it. If maybe I'm too soft. You're not too soft, Alex said firmly. You're 22 years old. You volunteered for one of the hardest programs in the military. And you've made it this far. That takes strength. Don't let one man's abuse make you doubt what you've already proven. But if you speak up, you might save the next trainee from going through what you went through, Alex interrupted. And that takes a different kind of courage. The kind that matters just as much as physical toughness. Palmer wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. What do you need from me? The truth, Alex said. On record. Everything you've seen. Everything you've experienced. I need dates, times, witnesses. And I need you to be willing to stand by your statement, even when it gets difficult. Will other people come forward? I don't know yet, Alex admitted. But someone has to be first. Someone has to be brave enough to say that what's happening isn't right. Palmer sat with that for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay. I'll do it. Alex pulled out a fresh legal pad and a pen. Start from the beginning. When did you first notice behavior from Lieutenant Sutton that crossed the line? For the next 90 minutes, Palmer talked. Haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. He described incidents going back 3 months. Shoves disguised as motivation. Verbal abuse that went beyond tough love into cruelty. Punishments that weren't on any approved training schedule. And most damning, a culture where other instructors watched and said nothing. When he finished, Alex had filled 7 pages with notes. Thank you, she said. I know that wasn't easy. Palmer stood, then hesitated. Alex, can I ask you something? Of course. When you were going through training, did anyone ever make you feel like you didn't belong? Alex's smile was sad. Every single day, for the first 2 years. But I learned something important. The people who told me I didn't belong were wrong. And eventually, I proved it. Not to them. To myself. Palmer nodded, straightened his shoulders, and rendered a sharp salute. Alex stood and returned it, her movements precise and respectful. You're going to make a good SEAL, Connor Palmer. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. After he left, Alex sat back down and pulled out her phone. She typed a message to Mitchell. First witness secured. We need more. The response came quickly. Working on it. 2 more trainees want to talk. Bringing them by tomorrow 0700. Alex leaned back in her chair, exhaustion washing over her. This was why she'd left. The weight of knowing what people carried. The responsibility of being the person they trusted with their pain. But it was also why she'd come back. Because sometimes walking away wasn't the same as healing. Sometimes you had to face the fight one more time. The next morning, 2 more trainees appeared at Alex's door. Both were in their early 20s. Both had visible injuries they tried to hide, and both had stories that matched Palmer's almost word for word. By the end of the day, Alex had documented 12 separate incidents of abuse, involving 4 different instructors, with Lieutenant Sutton at the center of all of them. That evening, Garcia brought her something else. Maintenance records from the armory showing that live ammunition had been signed out for training exercises that never appeared on the official schedule. The serial numbers didn't match any authorized drills, and the quantities were small enough to avoid automatic oversight, but large enough to raise questions. What do you think this is? Garcia asked, spreading the printouts on Alex's table. She studied them carefully. Either someone's running unauthorized training, or they're doing something else with the ammunition entirely. Black market? Garcia suggested. Maybe, Alex said. Or maybe Sutton's running his own private training program off the books. Either way, it's a violation. Mitchell arrived an hour later with more evidence. Medical records for 8 trainees who'd been treated for injuries inconsistent with standard training. Bruised ribs, sprained wrists, 1 suspected concussion. All of them had listed the cause as training accident. All of them were from Sutton's unit. "This is enough," Mitchell said. "We take this to the base commander now." But Alex shook her head. "Not yet. We have a pattern, but we don't have the smoking gun. Sutton can claim these are just unfortunate accidents. That trainees misunderstood, tough instruction, that the ammunition discrepancies are clerical errors." "Then what do we need?" Garcia asked, frustrated. "We need him to do it again," Alex said quietly. "With witnesses who can't be dismissed." "You want to use yourself as bait," Mitchell said, reading her expression. "I'm already bait," Alex replied. "Everyone on this base knows who I am now. Sutton knows I'm watching him. He's got 2 choices. Back down and hope I go away. Or double down and try to discredit me." "And you think he'll double down?" Garcia said. "Men like Sutton always double down," Alex said. "Arrogance is their armor until it becomes their prison." Mitchell crossed his arms. "What's the play?" "Tomorrow morning. PT formation," Alex said. "I'm going to be there. In workout gear. Running with the trainees." "You're going to provoke him," Mitchell said. "I'm going to give him enough rope," Alex corrected. "What he does with it is his choice." Section 8. The antagonist's moment. The morning came cold and gray, fog rolling in from the Pacific to blanket the training field in thick white silence. At 0530, 200 trainees formed up for morning PT, their breath visible in the damp air, voices muted by the mist. And standing among them, wearing black running shorts, a gray navy t-shirt, and running shoes that had seen better days, was Alex Carter. The whispers started immediately. "That's her. The DevGru operator. What's she doing here?" At the front of the formation, Lieutenant Derek Sutton froze when he saw her. His jaw clenched, his hands tightening into fists at his sides. For 3 days, he'd been dealing with the fallout of that mess hall incident. Questions from his superiors. Rumors spreading through the ranks. Trainees, looking at him differently, like they were suddenly measuring him against a new standard. And now she was here, in his formation, on his training field. Senior Chief Mitchell stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching. Garcia was with him, along with 2 other senior NCOs who'd been quietly read into what was happening. Sutton walked to the front of the formation, his voice cutting through the fog. "Listen up. This morning's PT is a 6-mile run followed by calisthenics. We'll be taking the beach route. Keep formation. Keep pace. Anyone who falls out does it again tomorrow with full kit." He paused, his eyes finding Alex in the 3rd row. "And just so we're clear, there are no special accommodations for civilians. You want to run with my trainees, you keep up or you get off my field." Alex met his gaze steadily, but said nothing. "Fall in," Sutton barked. The formation began to move, boots pounding a rhythm on the asphalt as they headed toward the beach trail. Alex fell into step easily, her stride smooth and controlled. She'd run thousands of miles in her career, often with 50 pounds of gear on her back, often through terrain much worse than this. A flat beach run was nothing. For the first 2 miles, Sutton set a brutal pace, faster than standard PT, fast enough to push even the fittest trainees to their limits. Some began to struggle, falling behind, their breathing ragged. Alex stayed in the middle of the pack, conserving energy, watching. At the 3-mile mark, Sutton called for a halt. "Push-ups, 100, begin." The formation dropped. Alex dropped with them, her form textbook perfect. She counted silently, her movements controlled, no wasted motion. Sutton walked through the ranks, correcting form, shouting at those who were struggling. When he reached Alex, he stopped. "You," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think you're special because you used to wear a trident? Alex continued her push-ups. "No, sir." "Then why are you here?" Sutton demanded. "You got nothing better to do than play soldier with the actual military." "I'm just here to work out, sir," Alex said calmly, hitting push-up number 62. "Bullshit," Sutton snapped. "You're here to make me look bad. You're here because someone put you up to this." Alex paused at the bottom of a push-up, holding the position effortlessly. "With respect, sir, I don't need to make you look bad. You're doing fine on your own." The silence that followed was electric. Every trainee within earshot stopped moving, eyes wide. Sutton's face flushed red. "On your feet. Now." Alex stood, her expression neutral. "You want to run with my trainees. You follow my rules," Sutton said, stepping closer. "And rule number 1 is you don't disrespect instructors." "I haven't disrespected you," Alex said quietly. "I've just stated a fact." "A fact?" Sutton's voice rose. "You think you know how to run a training program? You think your fancy resume means you understand what we do here?" "I think I understand what good training looks like," Alex replied. "And I think you're confusing abuse with discipline." The words landed like a bomb. Sutton's hand came up, finger jabbing toward her face. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" Alex's voice stayed calm, but something had shifted in her stance. A subtle readiness. "I know that shoving trainees isn't in the training manual. I know that injuries shouldn't be covered up. And I know that good instructors don't need to bully people to earn respect." "You're out of line," Sutton snarled. "No, Lieutenant," a new voice cut in. "You are." Everyone turned. Captain James Rivera, the base commander, emerged from the fog like a ghost. His dress uniform was immaculate, his expression carved from stone. Behind him were 2 NCIS agents in suits, badges visible on their belts. Sutton's face went pale. "Captain, Lieutenant Sutton," Rivera said, his voice cold and formal. "You are hereby relieved of your duties pending an investigation into allegations of trainee abuse, unauthorized use of government ammunition, and conduct unbecoming an officer." "What? This is insane." "Captain, you can't." "I can and I am," Rivera interrupted. "NCIS will be taking your statement. You will surrender your access credentials and report to the base legal office within the hour." One of the NCIS agents stepped forward. "Lieutenant Sutton, we need to ask you some questions about your training methods and equipment usage over the past 6 months." Sutton looked around wildly, searching for support. His eyes landed on the other instructors who'd been complicit in his behavior. They looked away. Finally, his gaze swung back to Alex. "You did this," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "You set me up." "No," Alex said quietly. "You did this to yourself. I just made sure someone was paying attention." Rivera stepped between them. "Miss Carter, thank you for your assistance in this matter. Your documentation has been invaluable." Alex nodded but said nothing. Sutton was led away by the NCIS agents. His shoulders slumped. His earlier arrogance completely evaporated. The trainees watched in stunned silence as their instructor, the man who'd seemed untouchable, was escorted off the training field in disgrace. Captain Rivera turned to address the formation. "Listen up. What you witnessed here is the consequence of behavior that has no place in the United States Navy. Tough training is essential. Abuse is not. If any of you have experienced or witnessed conduct similar to what's been reported, you will have the opportunity to speak with investigators in a safe, confidential environment." He paused, letting that sink in. "This organization is built on honor, courage, and commitment. When we fail to live up to those values, we fail each other. That ends today." Rivera then did something unexpected. He turned to face Alex, straightened his posture, and rendered a slow, deliberate salute. "Miss Carter," he said formally, "on behalf of this command, thank you for your service." Then, and now, Alex returned the salute, her hand sharp and precise. And then, like a wave breaking on shore, the entire formation snapped to attention. 200 trainees, dozens of instructors. Every person on that field raised their hands in salute. The sound of boots striking together echoed through the fog like thunder. Senior Chief Mitchell stepped forward, his salute crisp. Hooyah! Wraith. Garcia followed. Hooyah! One by one, voices joined. Hooyah! 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 The word rolled across the field, growing louder, stronger, until it became a roar of respect and recognition. Alex stood at the center of it all, tears streaming down her face for the first time in 2 years. Not tears of pain, but of release, of being seen, of being honored not for what she'd hidden, but for what she'd never stopped being. A warrior who protected those who couldn't protect themselves. Connor Palmer, standing in the front row with his bruised ribs still aching, saluted with tears in his own eyes. He'd been terrified to speak up, terrified that telling the truth would end his dream. Instead, it had saved it. 6 weeks later, the training facility looked the same on the surface. Same buildings, same ocean wind, same sound of boots on asphalt. But underneath, everything had changed. Lieutenant Derek Sutton had been court-martialed and discharged from the Navy. The investigation had uncovered not just abuse, but systematic violations, including unauthorized ammunition sales to a private security contractor. He'd been trying to build a side business, using his position and access to government resources for personal profit. The 2 instructors who'd enabled his behavior, Staff Sergeant Brennan and Petty Officer Cole, had been formally reprimanded and reassigned to non-training billets. They hadn't participated in Sutton's schemes, but their silence had allowed the abuse to continue. Captain Rivera had implemented sweeping reforms, new oversight procedures, mandatory reporting training for all instructors, anonymous reporting channels for trainees, and a cultural shift away from embrace the suck toward we're building warriors, not breaking people. The changes weren't perfect. Old habits died hard. But the conversation had started, and once started, it couldn't be stopped. Alex Carter sat in the same mess hall where this had all begun, a cup of coffee cooling in front of her. She wore civilian clothes again, contractor badge clipped to her belt. The HVAC assessment was complete, her official reason for being here fulfilled. But she hadn't left yet. Senior Chief Mitchell found her there, sliding into the seat across from her. Heard you finished your assessment 3 days ago, Alex said. So why are you still here? Alex smiled faintly. Momentum. Once you start moving again, it's hard to stop. Mitchell studied her. You thinking about coming back? Active duty? No. Alex said immediately. Then, softer. Maybe. I don't know. She sighed. For 2 years, I told myself I needed to be away from this. That I needed normal. But normal doesn't fit anymore. It's like wearing shoes that are the wrong size. They might look right, but they never feel right. So what do you do? I don't know yet, Alex admitted. But I know I can't keep running. From the memories. From the nightmares. From who I am. She looked up at him. You can't fix yourself by running away. You can only fix yourself by running toward something better. Mitchell nodded slowly. For what it's worth, the community would welcome you back. Different role maybe. Training. Mentoring. We need people who remember what this is supposed to be about. Maybe, Alex said. Give me time to figure it out. Take all the time you need, Mitchell replied. But know this. What you did here mattered. You saved careers. You saved lives. You reminded everyone that courage isn't just about facing enemy fire. Sometimes it's about facing the truth. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. 2 warriors who'd seen too much but were still trying to do better. Finally, Mitchell stood. Gotta run. Formation in 10. Go, Alex said. I'll be here. After he left, Connor Palmer approached hesitantly. His ribs had healed, and he moved with the confidence of someone who'd survived something difficult and come out stronger. Ma'am, Alex. He corrected himself. I wanted to thank you. For everything. You did the hard part, Alex said. You spoke up. Because you made me believe it was worth it, Palmer replied. I'm still in the program. Still training. And I'm going to make it. Because I know now that being strong doesn't mean accepting abuse. Being strong means standing up for what's right even when it's terrifying. Alex smiled. You're going to be a hell of a SEAL, Connor. He saluted, and she returned it. As he walked away, Captain Rivera appeared. Miss Carter, got a minute? Of course, sir. He sat where Mitchell had been. I wanted to update you on the investigation. Thanks to your documentation and the testimonies you helped collect, we've identified pattern issues across 3 other training facilities. The Inspector General's office is launching a command-wide review. That's good news, Alex said. It's overdue news, Rivera corrected. We should have caught this ourselves. We failed these trainees by not listening, by not watching, by assuming that because something had always been done a certain way, it must be the right way. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a letter of commendation from Naval Special Warfare Command. It'll go in your permanent record, even though you're retired. They wanted you to know that your actions reflect the highest traditions of the SEAL community. Alex took the envelope, but didn't open it. Thank you, sir. There's something else, Rivera said. We have an opening for a senior advisor position. Civilian contract. GS-13 level. You'd be working directly with training commands to develop and implement new oversight protocols. It's not operational, but it's important work. Interested? Alex was quiet for a long moment. Can I think about? Take 2 weeks, Rivera said. But I hope you say yes. We need people who care more about doing it right than doing it easy. After he left, Alex sat alone in the mess hall, staring at the envelope in her hands. Around her, the base continued its daily rhythm. Trainees laughing. Instructors calling cadence. The sound of helicopters in the distance. She thought about the last 2 years. The nightmares that had driven her away. The silence she'd hidden in. The belief that she could only heal by walking away from everything she'd been. She'd been wrong. Healing wasn't about running from who you were. It was about finding a way to be that person in a healthier way. To take the skills, the experience, the hard-won wisdom, and use them to build something better. She pulled out her phone and typed a message to the number that had started all of this. The former teammate who'd asked her to take this job. Investigation complete. Subjects in custody. Mission accomplished. The response came, quickly. Knew you could do it. What's next? Alex stared at the question for a long moment, then typed. Thinking about staying. There's work to be done. Good. The fight doesn't end just because you take off the uniform. Sometimes it just changes shape. Alex smiled, slipped her phone away, and looked around the mess hall one more time. The same walls where she'd been dismissed. The same tables where 16 men had surrounded her. The same space where everything had started. Except now it felt different. Not because the place had changed, but because she had. She stood, grabbed her coffee, and walked toward the door. Outside, the California sun broke through the fog, painting everything in gold. The training field stretched ahead of her, filled with young men and women who were trying to become warriors. They needed good instructors. Strong instructors. Instructors who understood that building people up was harder than tearing them down, but infinitely more important. Maybe she could be that. Maybe this was what came next. Alex Carter, call sign Wraith, walked into the sunlight and smiled. The war wasn't over. It had just found a new battlefield. And she was ready. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe for more military and veteran stories. These true tales keep the courage alive for generations to come. And in the comments, tell us where are you watching from and who's the quiet leader you'll never forget.